introduction and for firing the warning shot as well. Been a long day. Some of you may be disengaged. I'm so happy to see familiar faces in the audience. For those of you who haven't been initiated, and no disrespect to my previous speakers, but microphones are for wimps. You know I love you ladies. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the inequities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Now, blessed is he who, in the name of charity and goodwill, shepherds the weak through the valley of the darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy thy brother. And you will know that I am the Lord, when I lay my vengeance upon them. I've got one thing to say. In fact, I've got two things to say. The first thing is, King Kong ain't got shit on me! And the second thing is, Jamie, did you point out where the nearest fire exit is? Because I'm just trying to imagine, if I was sat down listening to myself, I'd be like, where are the nearest fire exits? Oh my God! Are they behind you? Point them out, Jamie.
One on the left.
And there's one on the right. And here we are, stuck in the middle with you. Are you still disengaged? No? Maybe some method in my madness? Sometimes, señorita.
I don't really understand.
You can't understand me. Good sounds abound when the mouth is round. When I'm like vivacious, I speak quite rapidly, so I'll try to slow down. Thank you for that information. Moving swiftly on, sometimes I say, who needs psychotropic medication when I can deliver this performance every now and then? Because I find it very empowering, very therapeutic, and very cathartic. So the aims of this performance, I'd like to provide you with some background information about physician and medical student mental health. Define and discuss the far-reaching and indeed egregious effects of mental health-related stigma and what we can do to challenge it. And I'd also like to present data from the first study of its kind to challenge mental health-related stigma in healthcare professionals and students. Is that better? Thank you. So it's my contention that through the power of the performing arts and storytelling, we can engage people. And once engaged, we can inspire them to deconstruct and reformulate their perceptions of madness and psychiatry, not based on anecdote or sensationalism, but based on the facts and on evidence derived from empirical research. So granted, my approach is not conventional, but I make no apologies for not conforming with the status quo. I'm here to rock the boat. So Tate Sonnenfeld is arguably the world authority on physician and medical student mental health. I think he's in Stanford at the moment, and he published a paper with colleagues in the Lancet in 2016
emphatically exclaiming that physician burnout and emotional exhaustion has reached epidemic levels. And we know that globally the pooled prevalence of depression and depressive symptoms in physicians is 29%, which is greater than the general population. So this is a paper that was presented at the 2018 annual meeting at the American Psychiatric Association, and a systematic review and meta-analysis of the literature revealed that the suicide rates in physicians is between 28 to 40 per 100,000, which is more than double that of the general population. And factors that contribute to this are mental health difficulties, there's substance misuse. Now, mental health difficulties may develop early on in medical school. Another systematic review and meta-analysis on the prevalence of mental health difficulties in medical students, published in January 2016, revealed that 27% of the 150,000 respondents reported depressive symptoms, and 11% experienced suicidal ideation. Simply put, it ain't easy being a medical student. Now, in this article, the authors argue that there are three broad approaches to addressing medical student mental health. You can be proactive, so you can have resiliency training. You can be reactive, you can have counselors on campus. And then the third one is instigating systemic change. So challenging the culture of stigma. And I invite you all to join our cultural revolution to challenge the stigma attached to mental health difficulties in medical students and doctors. Irving Goffman defines stigma as a deeply discrediting attribute that reduces the bearer from a whole and usual person to a tainted and discounted one. The individual is thus disqualified from full social acceptance. A deeply discrediting attribute. What is that? It could be your race, it could be your sexuality, it could be your faith, it could be your ethnicity. So we have something called intersectionality. For example, I'm going to say the M word. If you're a Muslim from an ethnic minority background with mental illness, then that's the triple stigma. Now, historically, a stigma was a scar from a burn or cut to the skin of Greek criminals. The mutilation was a sign of disgrace, indicating that these people should be avoided and shunned. Stigma still persists today in the attitudes towards those who have mental illness. We see a fundamental divide between the manic mind and the asthmatic lung, as if those who experience mental illness do so out of their own making, and as such do not deserve the same kind of empathy would ordinarily show to someone with another chronic condition like cancer, for example. Memories of Trisha Goddard have not faded, I hope. British television personality, diagnosed with breast cancer and depression. She described both experiences as horrible, but with breast cancer, people ran towards her with open arms and hugged her. With depression, people were running away. When she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she was inundated with get well soon calls. The moment news leaked out that she was admitted onto a psychiatric ward following a nervous breakdown, not a peep, and certainly no cause. Stigma. Stigma and a culture of shame are formidable barriers to mental health services. Consequently, many medical students and doctors with mental illness continue to suffer in silence, despite the availability of effective treatment. Je répète, many medical students and doctors with mental illness continue to suffer in silence despite the availability of effective treatment. And you want to know why there's a fire burning in my belly and thunder in my heart? Do we know about Dr. Hankir? A brilliant psychiatrist, loving mother, compassionate wife, diagnosed with bipolar affective disorder. She tragically killed herself and her 3-month-old baby daughter Freya during a psychotic episode. An independent inquiry into her death concluded that she was the victim of stigma in the National Health Service. Mental health related stigma is rampant in the NHS, and there are people in this room who are sources of stigma. It's not an easy truth to confront. Just because I have lived the experience, it doesn't mean that I'm not a potential source of stigma. You have to be brutally honest with yourself. Engage in introspection. This moment will become a memory. Please reflect on that. Succinctly put, stigma is killing people. Stigma is killing people. Now, stigma is an umbrella term that can be deconstructed into 3 main components. Problems of knowledge, ignorance, problems of attitude, prejudice, and problems of behavior, discrimination. And this is helpful when you want to operationalize stigma, if you want to conduct evaluations of anti-stigma campaigns, for example. How do we react to stigma? There are a group of people who internalize public stigma. They develop self-stigma, and they have low self-esteem and low self-efficacy. Another group of people, they don't really care. They're nonchalant. They're not here or there. They're not bothered. The third group of people, and I think it comes as no surprise which group I belong to, they become energized. They develop a righteous indignation. They want to be agents of social change. How do we challenge stigma? 3 broad approaches: protest, education, and contact. Katrina mentioned Patrick Corrigan. He conducted a systematic review and meta-analysis on challenging public stigma and revealed that contact with someone who has lived or lived an experience is the most effective way of reducing mental health stigma in adults. So in other words, people who have lived experience or living experience of mental illness have the power to reduce mental health stigma and should operate at the vanguard of any anti-stigma campaign. And Katrina, you mentioned this, the coming out crowd. It used to be called coming out crowd. Now it's called the honest open and frank. I won't talk too much about it. Who should give a talk to medical students about their mental health? Do we know? So this survey on 300 medical students throughout the UK revealed that 90% either agreed or strongly agreed that it should be a doctor who has lived experience of psychological distress who gives that talk. Stephanie Naak and colleagues based at the University of Calgary identified the 6 key ingredients for effective anti-stigma campaigns in healthcare professionals. Now, I was inspired by my fellow survivors to share my recovery journey, and so I created the Wound Theater. The Wound Theater is a tripartite anti-stigma program that incorporates the elements of protest, education, and contact. It has been described as an innovative method of pedagogy that blends the performing arts with psychiatry. And the argument I'm making is, how can you educate an audience if you can't engage them. So this has been integrated into the medical school curriculum of 4 UK universities. I go to Greenwood Lecture Theatre at King's College London, auditorium of 350 medical students. They've been subjected to, let's be honest, a day of boring professionalism lectures. I rock up, medical student sat in the front row is literally snoring with saliva drooling down his face. And I want to know, if reenacting Ezekiel 25:17 from Pulp Fiction doesn't galvanize him, I don't know what will. Delivered it to 75,000 people in 15 countries and 5 continents worldwide. Took 3 years out of my training. Bloody hard work, but very extremely rewarding. Understand that basis? It's great when you work with medical school psychiatry societies because they create these very kind of actually devotional material. Global footprints of the wounded healer, where I met Yukon, Christchurch. It's just, only 3 minutes left?
23 minutes.
Oh my days. Say it isn't so. There's only so many talks that I can give. We created the Wounded Hero film, and we can just reach out to even larger audiences nationally and internationally. You know, I don't always get a warm reception. You know, I delivered this as a grand round in New Hampshire and Dartmouth. And the cameraman's assistant, no background in mental health, approached me. He just said, I just want to shake your hand, Dr. Hankir. I have a meeting with the head of the Department of Psychiatry. And when I open my mouth, his face contorts as if I'm going to transmit some kind of venereal disease. He's disgusted by me. He makes me feel like dirt. 40 years of training. He likes to isolate himself in the lofty confines of an ivory tower. And if I'm in a mental health crisis, am I going to go to that guy? Or am I going to go to the cameraman's assistant? When you get this feedback, this written feedback, and sometimes I feel like, you know what, I'm going to throw the towel in. I can't do this Wounded Healer anymore. You get this feedback, you know, it keeps you going. Lecturing alongside a Nobel Prize laureate to 500 medical students at the University of Coimbra. This feedback inspires me to keep on going. So, because we don't have a lot of time yet, the unintended positive, I love this, is so good for my ego. I'm sorry, I have a twin brother. He looks like me, dresses like me, might be the next best thing, but it's not quite me. Monozygotic, he's like self-effacing, I'm self-aggrandizing, so this is, I love this. Sorry, I'm trying harder, I'm trying to be more modest, but I'm sorry. We collaborate with King's College London, we administered validated psychometric stigma scales on an event with my wingman, Professor Jamie Hacker-Hughes, and there were statistically significant reductions in stigma in all 3 domains: knowledge, attitudes, and behavior. This wasn't the presentation I was going to. If you can fill the 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the world and everything that is in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. You're a wonderful audience. Thank you very much.